All right, Super Coaches, strap in because this is the SuperCoach AFL Podcast, your in and out guide to the greatest game on earth. The most stressful game on earth this week for some, I'll tell you that much. We've got round 23 in the bag. The final round of the 2024 home and away season is upon us. We're here to preview it. I'm your host, Jaymz Clements, and joining me this week, it is a treat this week, gentlemen, because we have four of the finest SuperCoach brains on the planet. And also me. We've got Al Payton, the guru. What's going on, Al?
It's exciting, James. Grand final week. I don't think I'm in any, but it's a good time to be watching footy and playing SuperCoach.
Tell you that much. One who's now able to do that, he's gotten off his deathbed. It's Patch.
G'day, I'm back. I'm alive somehow, despite the odds. I'd say the season has flown by, but it has not. It's dragged out so much, and it has aged me years.
I didn't want to say anything, but
delighted to be here.
We've also got the Phantom jumping on once more. No real Bubble Boys to talk about, but we do sort of hit on maybe some of the history of the Bubble Boys, of Bubbles past. But
Al, he's mainly here so that Al can tell him that he's still winning.
Yeah, it's a lot of just dumping on each other. But mostly, a lot of today's show, we have the coach of the number one ranked team in SuperCoach this year, Nathan. He's the coach of Cadiz Crew. He is currently ranked number one, Al. He has a very stressful week ahead, despite being in number one.
$1,000 grand prize, just sitting there.
For the taking?
I'd almost rather get the flu again than have to go through what he's going to go through over the next week. So, anyway, he's a good egg. He's good to chat to.
Nice one. All right. This show is, of course, proudly brought to you by SuperCoach Plus. Follow all your live SuperCoach scores in the final week, on your game day. See all the break-evens, projected scores. Just dominate your matchup. That's what you do. Check out the show links for a bit of a, subscription link there. Now, last one of these for the season, a round 23 wrap and heroes and villains, Al. I'm going to, I'll lead off this one, 23.80 with a donut.
That's good with the donut.
At all.
It was a very strange one. I pulled the pin on moving Sheasel out. I brought in Cripps. He's one of my heroes this week.
Wow.
Paddy Cripps, final
Huge.
round. I'm like, he's going to dominate the West Coast Eagles. He did that, ripped off 142. But as part of that was obviously trying to, limit the impact of these donuts this week, which was a hard ask. Lawson Humphries, my beloved Lawson Humphries. He was sitting in the midfield. Moving Sheasel allowed me to put Lawson Humphries on field and obviously have Cripps in. So with that one remaining trade this week, it sucks having one trade because you're like, that's all I can do. And like all the permutations, I'm like Charlie Day in front of the board trying to figure out where everything goes. You actually mentioned this.
You know what's worse than having one trade? Welcome to having no trades, James. Welcome to the hell we've been living in for 6 weeks.
But my other hero, of course, was Noah at home Anderson.
Yes.
I did dig into this. He was my captain. He wasn't as good as your captain last week, Al. But Noah at home Anderson, 121 average over 12 home games this year. That includes the 2 at TIO Stadium. He is one of the single finest players above the 28th parallel. Simple as that, at home. Everything else, maybe not so much, but he was my ride or die. All year was Noah at home Anderson. I feel very happy with that. I don't know if anyone's spoken more about Noah Anderson in Australian AFL media than I have this year, and I feel good about that. I love you, Noah Anderson. You're my boy. Villain, Whoa Errol.
Ooh.
That was a whoa stinker. 84 against the Bomb Rays on Friday night. Outside of that, though, it was pretty good. You saw Dacos go smash. You saw Tom Green go smash. Al, what was your score and who was your hero and villain?
Well, I was going to use the fact that I played a donut as my excuse for scoring 22.73, but doesn't really stack up after what you just said. My hero, again, Lawson Humphries, getting him on field, and really my hero is the optimizer button because it figured out how to get Humphries onto the field to cover one of my donuts, which was Sheasel with no trades, couldn't do anything about that, but Charlie Curnow couldn't cover him, so went with a man down. Cherry as captain again, 141. It's just been a great pickup for the last few weeks, and obviously some big scores from the likes of Tom Green, another one of your favourites, and Zach Butters, but pretty highly owned players. And the issue for me on the weekend was that the guys that I needed to go well, who not everyone has, really pretty much to a man stunk it up. Jordan Clark, 60. I mean, he's been a great selection. Hasn't scored below 100, I think, since I got him, and then puts up a score like that. Bailey Dale, I'm not sure what's happened to him the last couple of weeks. Only got a 70-odd. We won't talk too much about Brodie Grundy, but he's just absolutely fallen off a cliff in the last few weeks, and Zach Merritt getting tagged as well. So some pretty poor scores from those guys. But my biggest villain of the week was Zach Fisher, who is not in my team anymore, but he was until last week. And then I used my last trade to trade Zach Fisher out and bring Isaac Rankin in.
Oh, no.
Oh, Al.
Jeez.
Oh, no.
Oh, what was that sound? It was like a body hitting hitting the ground or something.
We can replay it and you can picture the exact moment his heart splits in two. Oh, that poor man.
Jeez.
So Rankin was obviously bad news when he went down, and he's going to be out again this week. And then to watch Fisher come back into the team after I held him for a month when everyone else had gotten rid of him, finally traded him out. Then he comes back the next week and scores 100.
I don't know how he scored 100 watching that game, but he did. He did
Yep.
somehow.
I would have taken those points.
Take away all his clangers and he could have broken the record for this.
Could have outscored Brent Daniels.
Oh, could have. Could have.
Patch, score, and heroes and villains.
2, 4, 9, 2. I had my flu game on the weekend. That's with a donut too, just to rub it in a bit, Al. I don't know where this came from. I didn't watch an awful lot of football on the weekend. I logged in on Sunday and went, what? How does that check out? So shout out to the boys, Nick Martin, Elliot Yeo, Nick Dacos, the Bont as captain, Butters, Tom Green, a big fan of Tom Green, Jack Steele, who's come back to life since Tim Mitchell traded him out. Thanks, Tim. But the hero I'm giving this week is Dylan Moore. Just, like, I hate that Hawthorn's good again. I don't want to put up with Hawthorn being good again, but gee whiz, he tickles a cold, dead part of my heart to keep some sort of flicker alive. I just love him. He's great. 139 on the weekend was fantastic. My villain, though, Luke Ryan. Not so much for Classic. He, 68, not a good score. Didn't sink my weekend from a Classic front. From a keeper league front, though, he was my captain in a prelim final where I lost by about 100 points. So
this is one of the great features of draft. You and Lek were telling me a couple of weeks ago that only one person can own someone like Luke Ryan.
Only one person can only own Luke Ryan, and it was me. So if I'd captained Tom Green and made another change or two, I would have won that, would have been in the grand final. But Luke Ryan, who's been the heart and soul of that side since I took it over, just let me down when I needed him most, and that hurt on a deep personal level, Luke.
Tough scenes. Tough scenes in the Patch household this weekend. Just, I don't know, all the flu-ridden, just germs floating around, and then that kick in the guts. Let's do some news, injury, suspensions this week, Al, because we have few pretty important ones. Jeez, with Sheasel sitting there as well, but Dan Houston's obviously been cited, rubbed out. Rankin obviously concussed. He'll miss this week as well. The slight good news was Will Day, I guess, in terms of injuries, but
I mean, he won't play this weekend.
Exactly, so he's not going to play. So let's have a look at Dan Houston and Rankin. Where does this rank in terms of just absolute SuperCoach pain if you had either of these dudes and you've got 0 trades left?
Well, there's some teams, we'll get into the overall rankings in a second, but I think the team ranked third has Houston and Rankin, and there'll be a few teams like that. So absolutely brutal when that happened on Saturday night, and you could feel the shockwaves through Adelaide and then through the rest of the SuperCoach world. So that's we won't see Rankin again this year, and Houston may never play for Port Adelaide again. We'll see what happens in the tribunal, but he's definitely not going to be playing this week, I think we can fairly say. So you can rule those two guys out. I mean, you mentioned Sheasel hasn't been ruled out yet. We don't really know any more about that.
I did see a tweet saying somebody saw him in a box at Marvel in a moon boot.
Right.
Well, they actually shot there. I think you could actually see the footage at the game. Might have been wandering around or in the rooms. It was in the moon boot. And you're like, that's not great, but could just be precautionary.
It could be good.
Yes, that's right. Phantom tells us moon boot. Don't stress out about moon boots. Early in the week, they're quite common. So I'm going to cling to that.
I've seen you walk around with a pair of them on a Monday before. So, look, I don't know. I don't know what that means, but I'm just the giver of information. I'm channeling my Drew Jones.
And the other one is Charlie Curnow, who again wasn't ruled out for the season. They sort of left it pretty up in the air. I mean, Carlton still needs to win to make finals. What do you think his chances are, James? Of a surprise comeback to fill that void in my forward line?
Now, I'm no medical doctor, Al. Not anymore.
Not after the damn government took my licence away.
But at the same time, I think the biggest thing that plays in the back of my head, again, not a doctor, is where he was grabbing his ankle when he went down. It was quite high up. And I never trust high ankle sprains because those are the sorts of things that will rule you out for a month. And like Carlton are very much like 1 to 2 weeks, cool. But the desperation of them needing him to play and like to win, to like lock away a final spot. If it's just not on the high ankle severity sort of like plane, then hopefully he gets out there. But ankles are just tough. Like just sort of see how.
Well, they're not tough. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Like him tweaking it a few weeks prior, hurting it again. I don't feel overly confident, but if they're going to roll the dice at any point, it's this game.
He was down as 1 to 2 weeks on the injury list, so he's missed one. Yeah.
You've also got Harry Mackay as well, 1 to 2 weeks.
I think Sard was 1 to 2 weeks.
I think if Brody Kemp had played badly on the weekend, then they might be rushing him back. But
who needs Charlie?
Who needs Charlie when you've got Brody? Why would you bother? I don't think that'll help his cause a huge amount.
It's a tough one. So, we'll be keeping a very keen eye on Thursday teams this week.
That's right. I've got Mason Wood to cover for him.
He done, didn't he?
No, he's 85.
Oh, okay.
Which, hero, Mason Wood. Thanks, Mason. Helping
Sean
me
Manor
out.
popped in for me for Charlie with the 69. Nice.
Very nice.
After round 24, though, the biggest talking point, well, after round 23, of course, heading into round 24, Al, the biggest talking point you've lit up for the first part of this segment is the chase for 50K. The overall prize. It's what we're all gunning for. It's right there. You can almost smell it. 50 large. It's right there. And we're about to have a chat with Nathan. He is 144 points ahead of second, which is Caleb Windsor-Knott, Jobin, who ripped off a very, very nice 2,615 last week. I think the clincher here is, and this is such a tasty matchup between 1 and 2 because the pods are massive, Al. Like we've got a few across each of the lines, though. We've got Moore versus Simpkin, Cherry versus Marshall. I think there's one more as well between the two of them.
Well, the back line, there's some significant differences because the number 2 team doesn't have Sheasel or Houston after presumably maybe making a couple of trades in recent weeks, but that means Nathan's got he's sweating some bullets, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. So let's go have a chat with Nathan. He's the coach of Cadiz Crew right now. All right, as we promised, here is Australia's most nervous man this week. It is the coach of the number 1 ranked SuperCoach team in the world, gentlemen, in the world.
Universe.
Well, look. There might be other unverified alien species out there that have their own version of SuperCoach. Maybe they're tapping into this from like, I don't know, Alpha Prime or something like that. But it is Nathan, the coach of Cadiz Crew, who is sitting on 53,407 total points. That is 144 ahead of number 2. Nathan, how nervous are you this week? Number 1, trying to hold off number 2. What's going on?
Extremely nervous at this point. Dan Houston has made the nerves a little bit worse with my back line, but I don't know. It's out of my control now. It's sort of, it is what it is, and let the players do the work on the weekend.
This is great. This is actual coach speak. It's like we're just going to take it 1 week at a time. We can only play who's in front of us.
Pick a captain, then away I go.
I mean, so we hit on this just before we started recording, so not too much peeking under the hood, but I mean, your team is set and you've got a couple of big sort of nervous weights this week. Obviously, Harry Sheasel, Dan Houston in your back line. How are you approaching this week? Are you just sort of like on tenterhooks the entire time, just white-knuckling it, going, oh, come on, boys, we're just going to get over the line, let's go. Like, what's your approach to this week?
Last night and this morning was pretty white-knuckled. But I think as the week goes on, I'll just kind of wait until the teams come out on Thursday night. Hopefully no more bullets, and then try and hold on, really. It's, not too much else. It'll be a bit of work into seeing vice captain, captain, who might be the best options, but strategy might come into it as to whether I try and follow the crowd or let them try and catch me.
You've obviously done pretty well with yourself, vice captain and captain selection through the year to be ranked number 1. Is there something you look for in a vice captaincy option or a captaincy option that's been working for you so far this season?
probably just ceiling score, but then it's just matchup. Matchup's the main one. And then there were a few times I had to fall back on a captain, so I was just making sure that most people have Bont. So I was just trusting him that if your vice captain doesn't work out, then he's going to give you a relatively decent score. And it's not trying to overcomplicate things between a massive ceiling score, like a 150 compared to a 120. It's still only 30 points difference. So it's, not trying to chase a 150 that you've missed and just take a 120 that you can bank every week from Bond.
Yeah.
I like that. That's the exact opposite approach of me, which is why he's ranked number 1, Nathan, and I'm just an idiot. So, because I will galaxy brain my way into the worst option, no matter how. I'm always going to get the worst option if I try to outsmart myself. Because again, I'm not smart. You see, Nathan is. That's smart. At what point did you realize? Oh, hang on a sec. I might win this entire shebang. Was there a moment where it sort of clicked?
Probably after the buys, I was like. Because I think it was from around 6 or 7 I started to climb pretty quick. And then after the buys, I was still up there. So getting past all that carnage of the buys, I was like, all right, could be on here. So then I just traded aggressively and tried to keep ahead and try and hold on now.
Talk me through your strategy for the year. You obviously still had a fair few trades coming out of the buys if you're able to be a bit aggressive. Were you really conservative with trades? Did you go hard early and then kind of, moved off them for a bit and then came back during the buys? Or what was the way you moulded your team this year?
I probably went hard early. I didn't start with a few guys. I didn't start with Heaney. I didn't start with Xeri. But I got them in before their first price rises. So I made sure that I corrected any mistakes quickly. And having the extra trades this year with the early buys meant that you could do that. And I avoided a lot of players that had early buys as well. I started with Grundy, traded him out after his first 2 games. 3 games, he had a price rise then down to Xeri. So I got a small little price rise out of that. And then, didn't start with Dacos, waited. But I had a plan, like most people plan to get Dacos after his buy. And little things like that were actually stuck to. I think I may have got Dacos the week of his buy with the way trades worked out for me. So I was just trying to be 1 week ahead. And it was...
I was looking at... so Cherry's now 716 grand. And so you would have got him for just over 400. So that's a pretty good reason why you've had a good year. I mean, you talked about going aggressive with the trades. Are you prepared to divulge how long they actually lasted?
It was around, can't even remember what week it was. It's probably the last 4 or 5 weeks where I've had none.
Wow.
It was the Rankin, Heaney and Gawn trifecta that week that I had all 3. So I basically bit the bullet to settle my team. So I had rookie cover, DPP swings, just so if someone missed, I'll be relatively covered, which has worked out all right until now. So
yeah, I mean, that was one of the first things I noticed looking at your team was just looking at the bench. You've got Sean Manor sitting there in the forward line who's been great. Lawson Humphries, we know, is scoring really well. Billy Dowling, although he's out of the team now, but had a few good weeks. And then Joel Frazier just sitting there, pumps out a 136 on the weekend. But, yes, I mean, how important has that bench cover been? Although, as you say, you've been sort of caught out a little bit this week by not being able to get Humphries back into defence where he could be so valuable.
Yeah, it's been valuable. It's more more peace of mind, really. I haven't had to fall on it too much over the last few weeks with the availability. But then also having the Jackson ruck swing allowed me to keep going. That was the last big decision I had, whether to keep going and trade Rankin or keep Rankin and trade Gawn. Thankfully, kept going.
Yeah.
Because I only had Rankin for a couple of weeks before his suspension, and then had to get rid of him. So, yeah, it was just hold on, really. Get the DPP swings, and a warm body on the field is better than nothing. And as you know, the rookies have been scoring quite well.
Yeah, and you held Zach Fisher as well. It sounds like that might have been a bit out of necessity, but that worked out okay on the weekend.
Yeah, it was necessity. Didn't really want to keep him, but once again, the swing between defender and forward was kind of the way I wanted to set my team up, just so I had as much cover as possible if I was going to go down to having no more trades. So it was get as many swings as I could with my last trade and see how we go.
Is there one trade you're happiest with for the year, or a couple of moves that really, think set you apart from the pack?
A few things stand out just with where a lot of people would have traded Sherry for Jordan Sweet at times, whereas I went up from my ruck bench. I went up to Jordan Sweet instead of going down.
Yes, you had him on the bench at R3.
Yeah, so I had him on the bench. Yep. And then a lot of people went to Jack McRae. I went to Dylan Moore at that point. Then a lot of people started getting on Clayton Oliver. And I just kind of, little things like that where...
You're just listing out all the stuff that I screwed up. This is great. I just feel horrible. I think Nathan's just here to stick the boot into my horrible year.
A lot of people started Connor Rozee. They rode Noah Anderson all year.
Breaking my heart, Nathan. Breaking my heart.
The main ones probably, I remember the week, I can't remember who they played, but I brought in Connor Rozee and Tom Green when they were at basement price.
Yep.
Yeah, very nice.
And it was 5 minutes before Tom Green played. I was umming and ahhing, brought him in, and then he pumped out a 150. So I was very thankful that I did that.
I love it. Well, I mean, with the team set at the moment, I mean, as mentioned, like you're 144 points ahead of the second place team, which is Caleb Windsor-Knott, which again is a great name as well. The PODs between the two teams at the moment that you're going to have to be riding into this week are crucial. And like, I think it's amazing how many different points of difference there are in these two teams that are at the very, very pointy end of the entire SuperCoach. Is there one that's giving you sort of more concern than anything else?
Rowan Marshall.
That checks out. Yep.
Yeah.
Rowan Marshall is the one. I know, mainly because Gorn's kind of been on one leg, so it's Gorn fully fit. I wouldn't be as concerned. He's still scoring well enough, but Rowan Marshall's just unbelievable form. I think he's kind of been overshadowed by Sherry, but I think he's going at 130 the last 5 weeks or so.
Yep.
And then, Lockie Neal and Josh Dunkley are the two that can do anything. They could pump out ceiling scores.
I like this. You're just like me now. You're just like, all right, I want Carlton to tower St Kilda. You want Pitto just to absolutely run Rowan Marshall ragged, and you want the Blues to make the finals. I heard it. You heard it here, folks. Nathan is on board with your mate Jaymz about the Blues smashing the Saints. Let's go, boys. Come on.
I'll cheer for anything at this point.
We clearly want Essendon to run some really hard tags against Brisbane. What do you think the chances of that are, Patch?
They might not rock up to the Gabba, to be honest with you. I certainly wouldn't be enjoying riding against Neal and Dunkley this week, but stranger things have happened. Not many, but some.
There is another one in the forward line as well, isn't there? It's Simpkin and Luke Jackson. Was that the difference in the forward line?
Yeah.
Yep. With the Freo game, that's also the last game of the round.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
What do you think of Liam Reedy coming into the Freo team last week?
That happened. Pulled him out of nowhere. But yeah, you can only hope that somehow that's still a live game for Freo.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think, I don't even know how that needs to happen, but it needs to
I think
happen.
they need one of the teams above them to lose, like
they need
a Hawthorn or a Carlton to lose earlier in the round.
I'm a Hawthorn supporter, so we'll go with Carlton losing.
Just one hit after the other.
As a Hawthorn fan, would you rather win SuperCoach or have Hawthorn win the flag this year?
Oh.
There's a big smirk for those just listening to the audio. There's a big pause, a big smirk.
Tough. I'd rather win SuperCoach this year. They can win the flag next year.
Yeah, I think you're set up for a few years ahead as well. You know, there's a fairly half decent like it's Hawthorn. We're not talking about like St Kilda or the Dogs or something. Well, Dogs are all right, but you know, not a Saints fan basically. Yeah, that's Essendon. There we go.
Yeah. I was going to say, spoken like a man.
On the ladder, it may have changed my decision.
So obviously you're not going to be locking anything in until teams come out. But do you have like early leans on like who you're going to be like in the ballpark for your captaincy options this week? Because we obviously talked this out on this show on Captain's Call, and I feel like this week's an absolutely fascinating setup for some of these captain's calls, right?
Yeah, I think it's the last few weeks have been relatively easy for myself with Sherry, but everyone else, it's a bit open this week. So it's especially with like Bont and Sherry Bont playing on the Sunday. So yeah, it's a bit more up in the air this week. Definitely a lot of water to get under the bridge, but I won't be giving away any secrets.
Is this the gamesmanship as well, where it's like a minute before it locks in, you switch your VC or something like that? Is that how this rolls, or are you just sort of like a bit of a set and forget?
That would be very risky. You wouldn't want to miss lockout with 50 grand riding on it.
Yeah, no, I'll be setting it in stone pretty early, so that way if any mishap happens, then it'll be set. But I think last week I was umming and ahhing about my vice captain. I had it on Goulden. I was going to change it, but then didn't want to do a last-minute change that I regretted. So it was helpful that I had Sherry to fall back on with an easy matchup. So this week there might be a bit more nerves before my vice captain plays. But
and I guess kind of finally from me, what's the plan for this weekend? Are you going to be in front of the TV watching every game of football, riding every contested possession, every ruck smash, every contested knock-on? Are you going away for the weekend and not watching it at all? Like, what's the plan for how you're going to approach this weekend to keep yourself sane as much as anything else?
Well, I always monitor it mainly from my phone, from Fan Footy, or watching it on my phone with a little 18-month-old daughter. She kind of hogs the TV a bit with ABC Kids. So I kind of keep it on my phone, keep tabs on what's happening, and then kind of curse at my phone when someone's had 15 touches and they're on too many points. But yeah, it's just kind of, I'll keep it pretty similar.
Yeah, keep the routine going.
Yeah. It's almost worse when you watch it because you start barracking for players and getting a bit more frustrated at the TV when you don't need that.
Do you have like a specific, get up that you wear on the weekends as well? Like you're going to be in a Hawthorn jersey, you're going to be sitting there rocking the Dermot Brereton Memorial, 30-year premiership jersey or not? What do you reckon?
No, none of that. I'll
no
keep it pretty low-key until the very last game. I'll have to... Weeks gone by, I have sort of left it and waited till after lockout to know whether I've been winning or not, but I'm going to have to live track some scores this week.
Nice. Well, I mean, with this in mind, are you like on top of all your leagues? Like how has that worked out? You've got to be, right?
A couple. I think I actually lost on the weekend on one. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think I got 25-44 and I think, 2,600 beat me, but
Ooh,
more.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's just been consistent. So a lot of the time I don't pay attention to leagues. It's sort of...
Well, you got more important priorities at the moment.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of if your overall rank is doing well enough, then the leagues take care of themselves. So it's as long as your team's in the right shape, then the league team's going to beat you, then they're doing pretty well.
I love it. Yeah. Anything else there, El? Do you want to ask of Nathan?
No, I think we'll just, we'll be watching Harry Sheasel's moves very closely this week, hoping he can get up. I don't know if North has too much to play for, but surely they can just try and get him out there and whatever, on one leg, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Just to get that warm body on the field for you.
I wouldn't even mind if he started as sub. He'd probably score 50 and a quarter. So anything will do at this point.
I love it. Well, the cool thing is Nathan said before we went on air that he'd shout us a couple of drinks if he did win. So we're all rooting for you here. Go Cadiz crew. Nathan, this has been awesome, mate. Best of luck this weekend. 144 points ahead of Caleb Windsor-Knott. Absolutely white-knuckling it with you this week, mate. So best of luck.
No worries. Thanks for the chat, guys.
Best of luck, mate.
All right, that was an awesome chat with Nathan, coach of Cadiz crew. Now, the real matchup they're all waiting for this week. I'll tell you what, I've worn the T-shirt. If you're watching the video, it is payback, Simpson versus Tatum. That's basically how this rolls between Al and Phantom. So let's chat with Phantom right now. All right, you've all been asking for it. That's right, he's the people's champion. Well, he's not at the moment because Al's still beating him. From parts unknown, he is a handsome, angry man, but you don't know it because you can't see his face. It's the Phantom. What is going on, Phantom?
I'm back, James. It's good to be back. Good to see you as well. I will just talk to you and Patch today. The other bloke in the office, he's the enemy for one more week, one more big week of SuperCoach.
Let's start there. Al, how do you beat Phantom this year?
Well, somehow didn't have a good week this week, but I've maintained a lead. I think I'm about 80 points ahead of him. So I mean, my leagues, everything's crashed, but that still gives me plenty to play for going to the final round. Not that I can actually do anything with no trades and no bench cover really, but he obviously won't let me ask it. But if someone else can ask him, has he got any trades left? Has he got Isaac Rankin? Has he got Dan Houston? What's happening over there?
This is it. I mean, we just need the deep dive on Phantom's team right now and just get into all the pods against Al and just we can probably start some, bit of cash changing hands, maybe some sandwich bets on the line. Who knows what's going to happen here? Are you feeling confident at least, Phantom, tracking down that 80-point lead?
All I need is the bragging rights. Beating the king of AFL Supercoach is priceless, James. But I don't have Houston. I don't have Rankin. Still got Sheasel, Tim English. So took a donut on the weekend. So just sitting back, can't do anything about the teams coming up. Hopefully we get Harry Sheasel back. That'll give me a full side for the weekend. So I'm counting on that. I am actually in another league. Some good prizes up for grabs. Actually a better prize for second place. I am first in the league for overall points. Someone asked me on Sunday night, are you going to tank? Are you going to throw your team so you can get the better prize in second place? And I said, would I give it my chance to beat Al? No way.
Well, I did notice looking at the matchups this weekend that I'm pretty sure he's talked up Jordan Dawson for many years in SuperCoach, and I'm pretty certain he's got him in his team. I can't see who else in Adelaide James Jordan would tag this weekend. Is that something making you nervous?
Oh, I don't know. Who knows? Isaac Rankin obviously not going to be there. Is he a better matchup? Nothing much back at half back. Jordan Dawson, given his height and given how Matthew Nicks has moved him around, does that make John Longworth think twice about what he does with that, given Dawson could exploit someone like James Jordan in the front half or behind the ball. So who knows? I'm not too worried. James Jordan did drop off his tagging for a long while, but brought it back into his game, taking some big scouts. Hasn't been great for SuperCoach teams in the finals, but I'm not too worried. Hopefully the Swans just tune up in the finals by letting him go.
Well, I mean, if Billy Dowling comes in for Rankin, then there's your tag, obviously. You can't be letting a man with that, junior pedigree and those junior numbers running around just willy-nilly.
He's a threat, yeah. Sam Berry in there. Maybe goes to Sam Berry, Matt Crouch. Surely, come on. If you're listening, horse, let Jordan run free. He needs to have some fun. Maybe. Last game of the year. I
like that. John Longmire as well, big SuperCoach fan. So let's go. Hey, we obviously usually bring you on to talk Bubble Boys and stuff. Has there been a name as you've sort of tracked it down throughout this year? We're going to do the SuperCoach Wash show in a few weeks, but is there one sort of Bubble Boy that you really, outside of maybe Billy Dowling, that you latched onto and you just rode the entire season?
Can't say I went on the entire season, but it's pretty obvious now when you look back. But I did jump on and talk about Matty Roberts for a long while, and we have for a couple of years over here in Adelaide. He really showed his SuperCoach stuff this season, good early season cash cow, and then even as an on-field option late in the year, a nice point of difference for the finals. He's shown that. The one who has saved me, though, Billy Dowling, let me down, fell out of the side. Sean Manor from Geelong hasn't let me down and has come to save us. He's one we spoke about a lot over the preseason. Didn't really work out to start the year. He's come back into that Geelong side, put up some big scores when I've needed it. So my heroes in the cash cow category this year, Matt Roberts and Sean Manor, I think.
I love that. Sean Manor from heaven, a.k.a. Manor from Werribee.
Do you have a villain on the rookie front? Somebody that just didn't do it for you or let you down at a crucial time, or a WVP, a worst valuable player?
Well, it's hard to think back. I made a lot of worrying trades. Angus Hasty, ours man, probably comes in there at some point. I would have said Nick Caulfield. He's come back to save me. There's a lot of names to go through. I think
I traded in Tom Berry for 1 week. I don't know if you went down that road at all. He was a popular rookie for about a week or two.
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
I think I told you not to.
Yeah, you probably
did. But there has been. I have to go back over it. Nothing stands out. I think I've been pretty happy, really, somehow with my trading this year. There's always a few guys that let us down. Sam Berry, I mentioned him at the top about his return to Adelaide midfield. He was the top price option. They really hurt you when you start with a rookie at the top end. He was just over 200K to start the year. I started with him, put a couple average scores up, was a sub, then dropped. That hurts. Could have stayed 80 or 90K, got some cash with a cheaper option. So that's a good lesson going into next year. You have to really be sure about these top end options. So Sam Berry probably fits in there.
You mentioned Manor and even Caulfield, and it sort of worked out well in a way that they never really went up in value. So you had no real reason to trade them out. And then when they come back in, you've still got them sitting there on the bench. And we saw on the weekend, guys like Sam Darcy, was unbelievable. Joel Frazier came back and put up a massive score. And even Darcy Wilson from the Saints was fantastic. And I'm sort of watching thinking, man, I wish I had held one of these guys. It would have been great cover for me with all the outs we've had. But, you go back over your team and think, well, there's reasons you traded them. But is that something to think about next year, maybe, that trying to hang on to someone who has good job security and can score okay on the bench could come in handy in the run home, or it's just a bit of the luck of the draw and you're better off spending the money when it's there?
I think a bit of the luck of the draw. We look back on these results the past couple of weeks on the weekend, thought, we think what could have been, but at the time you traded for a reason. You probably improved your team at that time. That's what the aim of SuperCoach is to do, improve your team, make it better, quicker than the 180,000 other SuperCoach teams across the country. So I wouldn't be changing my thought process for that next year. If a highly rated rookie, gets injured or goes out of the team for an extended period, I won't be thinking, can he come back in a month or 2 months' time? We chop, chop, chop when we have to.
Yep. You mentioned next year, looking at next year, throwing ahead a little bit, are there any rookies that didn't debut this year that you're red hot on for next year if they get into the side for round one?
A few, as we see every year, a frustrating thing for SuperCoaches is coaches giving late season debuts, giving these kids a chance. We want to see next year, and Matthew Nicks at the Crows this season has blooded a lot of youngsters more so than in the past few seasons, which is going to hurt SuperCoach in 2025, but one to keep an eye on. I got to the Crows and Bulldogs game early a couple of weeks ago, saw the Crows sample side. Charlie Edwards is a draftee from a couple of years ago. The first year on the list, started off as a defender in the NAB League, moved into the midfield as a big-bodied midfielder, great ball winner, nice burst of speed, to a perfect player, I think, to what the Crows midfield needs. We've spoken about the mix and the improvement they need there. So he led all ball winners on the ground for the Crows sample side a couple of weeks ago. So he could be one to watch over the preseason. Nice
one. Well, we have plenty to dig into over the off-season anyway. Was there anything else you wanted to hit on there, Patch, Al?
Yeah, who's your captain this week? Just for the public, people out there want to know.
I'm not going to tell you, Al, but we're going.
What if I cover his ears? Will you tell us? If I just
can you not go Nick Dacos VC on Friday night? You probably have to do that given his form against Melbourne. We know what Melbourne's midfield, they gave up big numbers again to the Suns on the weekend, despite winning. Lockie Neal at home against Patch's boys, the Bombers, on Saturday night too. I don't mind that as well. Potentially good VC into a bit of Bulldogs action on Sunday, but I won't say much more than that. Good luck. Yeah, may the best team win.
May the best coach win. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
That makes me nervous.
It's bragging rights. Yeah. All right, there he is. He's the Phantom. You can check him out on Phantom's Lair. All the good stuff right there as well. Thanks once again, Phantom, for jumping on.
See you guys.
All right, Al, how good was that? Phantom's out here talking trash. Are you feeling confident after this? Like, what are you going to do here to get the win?
I don't know if there's anything I really can do. I just have to sit and take it, I think. But hopefully the boys can just pull it out for me one more week.
I reckon you need to get on the old dog and bone to your prospective captain and just like G him up before the games. Like, come on, I've got a lot riding on this. I've got an entire off-season that I need to brag over the Phantom with.
Yep. No, that's a good.
Could be a trip to church on Sunday morning just to just to cover all bases.
I like it. All right, well, this is also grand final time for SuperCoach. We're in the last, if you're looking at leagues and stuff like that, you're looking at, I don't know, especially, I think my draft league just got absolutely wildly intense last week. So grand final trades, what are we looking at here, Al? Because we've got obviously some big names out in Dan Houston, Rankin and co. Got Sheasel possibly. If you've got any trades left, is there anybody else out there that you're sort of looking at and you're like, oh gosh, this is the one we're going to go to? What's the advice here?
Well, I think, first of all, the advice is hold trades until the grand final because I wish I'd done that. Houston is the big one, obviously. He's owned by 60% of teams ranked in the top 10%. So a lot of people are going to be dealing with this. I'm not exactly sure how many of those have trades left, but 526K, you can...
it's not a lot.
No.
So if you don't have some cash reserves, that's not a lot to spend.
You're a fair way off. I think it's Sinclair and Whitfield, they were over 600. So, so you're probably priced out of them. But there are some decent options around. I mean, Tom Stewart, I think, is a great shout playing West Coast this week, but he's 560, so you need a little bit in the bank. But going a bit cheaper, maybe an Ed Richards is 506K. Does play in Ballarat against the Giants. Not the easiest matchup. Don't mind Nick Newman as a bit of a pod. We know he can put up big scores, and I think he scored 144 against St Kilda earlier in the year. Got the Saints this week at Marvel. He's only 541, so even he's more expensive than Houston, but might be able to get there.
Got a smoky for you if you're after one.
We're up for one.
Preseason darling Carl Amon is at 503K.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good against
three games.
The Tigers from what I saw.
Yeah, last 3 games, 131 against the Giants, 97 against the Blues, and 123 against the Tigers on the weekend. Has North this weekend, who didn't look like they'd be doing too much to stop the Hawks tearing them to shreds through the middle with that quick ball movement based on what happened to them on the weekend. So he'd be my shout if you've got no cash and nowhere to go to. Carl Amon would be the Hail Mary I'd be throwing. But obviously if you can get up to, if you don't have like a Dacos or a Whitfield or someone like that, you'd get up to him.
Dacos is only like 540 or something now.
Is he now?
Yeah, crazy.
Well, blow me down.
So, there you go. If you got 14K in the bank, you can go to Dacos, which is a pretty good shout, I think, this week going up against the Demons. Have you got any other Hail Mary trades out there, Alf? If you've got
because it's a bit of a classic move in SuperCoach to bring someone in just for the final round. I mean, I did it last year with Tex Walker, who I think averaged 80-something for the year, but he scored 160 in the final game against West Coast, kicked 9 goals. And it's happened in the past with, I think, Buddy's done it a couple of times, gone absolutely bonkers in the final game of the year. It's a bit harder to find one jumping off the page this year, but probably the one that I landed on was Jeremy Cameron at 432,000 in the forward line, playing West Coast at GMHBA Stadium. West Coast, similar to North, didn't put up a whole heap of resistance.
No, they didn't.
Yesterday, and their record at GMHBA is not good.
No, Tom Barras also probably not playing. He didn't play on the weekend. Yeah. It looks like he's made his call that he's moving, and the Eagles are like, well, we're going to put games into a kid in Harry Edwards. So, if he's got Harry Edwards on him, then
West Coast has lost their last 3 games at GMHBA by an average of 80 points.
That's a large number of points.
And Geelong needs to win to make the top 4. So I reckon they'll be
I can
feeding
see it.
Jezza.
I can see it. I can see it happening.
And they also did come out and already say that Tomahawk won't play in that game.
That's right.
So it's going to be a lot of Jezza a lot of the time. So I actually really like that shout. Considering what his last 2 games at home, Al, 140.
Well, I don't know if they were his last 2, but he's played a few times at Geelong this year, and 2 of those games he scored 140 and 120. So
Not bad.
He can go big, on his day.
Any other names that you're sort of throwing out there as a bit of a Hail Mary?
Well, I mean, looking at, trying to pick off the easiest matchups, and the fixtures done us absolutely no favours this week in the sense that the most obvious one in the recent weeks has been to find a ruckman playing against West Coast, because whoever it is, they just dominate. And even Mark Pitnett scored really well yesterday.
Yep.
Or a ruckman playing Geelong, because Geelong's experimenting with Reece Stanley's back in the team, but maybe it's Sam de Koning, maybe it's Blitzar's playing in the ruck, and they just give up heaps of points. But this week, Geelong and West Coast are playing each other. So that doesn't help. But the other team that's just giving up...
Cannot wait for Elliot Yovey, Patrick Dangerfield in the ruck.
Yeah. The other team that's just giving up points absolutely everywhere on the field is Richmond. Obviously, we saw on the weekend, Newcombe scored 160, Aim on 130s, Dylan Moore 130s. So
yep.
Richmond
Jack
play...
Gunston kicked 5
yeah,
goals.
Exactly.
Old
so
man
you look at, who's
Gunston.
Richmond playing this week, and it's Gold Coast
Ugh.
at the MCG.
In a
Ugh.
dead rubber away from home. It's just, come on, what are we
So
doing?
it's not a lot of obvious guys you would jump on there. I mean, Noah Anderson... maybe. I mean,
This is Noah away from home, Anderson.
Yeah,
I want
that's
no
the
bar of
worry.
that. I love you, Noah Anderson, but away from home, no bar.
The one that's had a few more runs on the board over the journey maybe doesn't have the extreme drop-off, moving away from home is Tuke Miller, who's back into the side on the weekend, scored 97 against the D's. He averages 135 in his past 3 against Richmond, so he's only 468k. It'll be a big roll of the dice, but I think in that game, someone is definitely going to go massive, probably a decent list of players, but it's just a matter of getting the right one.
It's a fascinating setup. Like, this is also where you sort of look at that game and go, could stupid sexy Flanders deliver one more time against a Tigers team? Like, he had 2 goals on the weekend, scored 120, and then they just fell apart like against the Demons at home. Could Flanders go massive? That's
I
the
think
question.
definitely. It's just in terms of a Hail Mary trade, a lot of us have him already, but I think
Yeah.
he'll definitely be. We'll get to captain soon, but
Nice.
he'll definitely be in the conversation.
If you have and need a Hail Mary and you have no cash, you've got a trade, you've got negative 100k in the bank or whatever it is. There is someone under 200k who could be worth a shout this week.
Well, I was surprised you didn't bring this up with the Phantom, because we know he loves to talk bubble boys. Some of these kids that we don't know much about that are just coming onto the scene.
We got sidetracked by a lot of trash talk from the Phantom. But no, the kid that's coming through, that up and comer, could be anything one of these days. Perhaps even a premiership player, an All Australian. Caleb Daniel is less than 200k. Played a full game on the weekend, scored, I want to say 80 odd.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Without having the number in front of me.
More than Bailey Dale.
More than Bailey Dale. He was playing kind of mid-half forward, wingish, up around the ground. If you've got no cash, if you're stuffed, if you've got Charlie Curnow and, cannot get him up 21, might be worth maybe throwing the Hail Mary, waiting to see if he's the sub first. And then if he's not the sub on Saturday afternoon in Ballarat, maybe.
Like, I've got Jai Clark sitting on my midfield bench.
If you've got...
I could make money trading him down to Caleb Daniel.
Yeah, if you've got a Billy Dowling who's not playing and you just can't get your primos up 21, maybe that's the move you take. And if you do trade an Isaac Rankin down to Caleb Daniel, you get that 300 grand paid out to your bank account, right? That's how that works.
Or you get it added
Directly from Al, though. That's
from
how it
Al,
rolls,
yeah.
so
I thought it was in your salary cap for the start of next year.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Well,
roll it over. There we go.
Pourquoi la das?
That's why Patch has got one boost left. And roll it over into next year. Let's do a stats with Al. Al, I'd actually love to see you break down Brent Daniels' SuperCoach score on the weekend where he rips up 195, but we'll get to that in a second. But this is more looking at the top 6 on each line, right? And sort of how many of these we sort of thought about going into this season. We will wrap this up when we do the SuperCoach wrap show in a couple of weeks. But at the moment, how many did we sort of expect of these top 6 to actually get there, do you think?
Yeah, well, as you say, we'll do this in a couple of weeks when we actually have the final numbers, but I just thought it was interesting to have a look at those names, considering we spent a lot of time earlier in the year and in the preseason trying to guess, we want to get these top 6 guys into our teams and into fancy, but Luke Ryan is the number 1, then Dacos, Sheasel, Whitfield, Houston, see if he stays there on total points over this week, and then Jordan Clark, who has been a really good pick, but flopped for me on the weekend. I mean, the one I thought was interesting is Nick Martin at number 7, so if you invested him in at the start of the year, obviously it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but if you knew he was going to be the 7th ranked defender for the year, and score 130s in SuperCoach finals, you'd be pretty happy.
Absolutely, at that price.
Yeah, I'd say that's a successful pick.
Jack Sinclair pick 8. I'm very, very happy there's no Hayden Young in that top 8 because he's the one I traded and Martin was the one that I kept.
Nice.
And that's made me feel a little bit smarter.
Imagine if you just traded both and got them back in. I mean,
Maybe.
that's a great use of a million trades. The mids, we've got the Bont.
Yeah, clear number 1. I mean, Butters has been unbelievable. Number 2, Sarong's had a great year. Zach Merritt, even though Sarong and Merritt have both got plenty of tags, especially since the buys, but have both had good years. Obviously, Treloar, Lockie Neal, and Dunkley.
So number 5 is probably the biggest surprise, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Treloar. That's huge.
None of us picked. Yeah, totally. And I mean, nobody picked Neal and Dunkley at the start of the year either because we were worried about buys and things like that. And then Cripps sneaks back in at number 8. So
it's my boy. I brought him in for the last round. It was incredible. I'm so happy. Now he just needs to do it one more time for me on his way to a second Brownlow. The rucks, I think this is amazing. Tristan Cherry, number 1 ranked ruckman, ahead of Gornicus. That is absolutely massive.
Insane.
I love that Rowan Marshall comes in 3 because he's had some huge games ahead of Brodie Grundy.
He's had some low scores too, Marshall, but I think Nathan mentioned this, that he has sort of flown under the radar this year because a lot of us were on Grundy and then, went to English maybe when he was cheap, or then we tried to get to Cherry and sort of Marshall's sort of just flown by the whole year. But number 3, he's going fantastic.
Grundy. For Patch's benefit?
He's top 5. He's a top 5 ruck. That's what I paid for at the start of the year. He's been there all year. Haven't wasted any trades on him. I'm desperately vamping to try and make myself feel better, but I still feel kind of justified.
I like that. Darcy Cameron was a fascinating one because he's gone massive the last few weeks. Has really turned it on. Tim English is the 6th ranked, and I think that's a bit of a surprise. Like heading into the season, we all thought he would have been built up for a massive contract year. Hasn't quite worked out that way.
Well, he averaged 130 plus last year, and he's averaging 108 this year. So, that hasn't worked out.
He's not like the others.
Tinglish got bevoed. The forwards, this has been a little bit easier because I think with so few options in the forward line, a lot of us probably have 5 or 6 of these top 6, right? We've got Stupid Sexy Flanders, the Heen Man, Dane Zorko, who...
It's a curveball.
That was a bit of a weird one. 35-year-old, third-ranked forward.
Well, it certainly took me, and I think quite a few people, a while to really...
Trust it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was probably getting close to the buys because you just think, this can't last. He's going to do a hammy or something.
Yeah.
Number 4 was Dylan Moore. I didn't
expect him to be that high. I thought he'd be one of those 7th or 8th ranked guys, jump on him when he's cheap, which most people did. Those that picked him up, generally don't start him, but he's been fantastic. To get to 4th is phenomenal.
My boy Jai Caldwell at 5. Luke Jackson, number 6, which is sure. Why not?
He scored 180 or something about round 2, and that's he's pretty much hung on since then.
And then Jesse Hogan and Brent Daniels, 7 and 8, which is an incredible pairing. That's amazing.
Is wild. And to think that I started with Jesse Hogan
crazy
to start the season and then got rid of him. Why did he do that?
And he didn't actually even go that amazing in that, because who were they playing in round 1?
They played, it was North and West Coast, and West Coast he did well, and North he scored 80. And I went, he's done his job, it's now on his bye, I can trade him to Flanders, which,
you wouldn't take that back, but
still. The names not there like Rankin and Kerno.
Yeah,
which
well,
is sort
I
of
was
like
just
where
going to
we've ended
say,
up.
this is where I think my team sort of lost ground in the last, since the buys of the last sort of 6 weeks or so, because they're the guys I've picked, and I don't have Moore and I don't have Caldwell. That's probably where I've lost all those points.
I love Jai Caldwell. I'm just saying. I think that was the trade from Rankin down to Caldwell once Rankin got suspended, and I've not looked back. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Jai. Right, quick fire round. A very, very brief quick fire round. Brent Daniels. What was that? What the hell was that? 195, Al. 195 points.
101 people traded him in this week.
Amazing.
They're the smartest 101 people that have ever lived in the history of humanity.
Imagine
Archimedes, get out of here. Einstein, never heard of him. Those 101 people are the future of the human race.
I like it.
Are they the ones Elon Musk should send off to...
Yeah, they can form the new colony on Mars that is a super just brain.
The anatomy of 195, Al. In terms of the SuperCoach scoring system, he obviously got around a couple of goals himself, but I think the key to his massive score were score involvements, score assists,
that's the thing. The formula, like you look at his raw numbers, and they're very good, but don't scream at you 195 SuperCoach, but the formula really rewards when you impact the scoreboard, whether it's you're kicking goals yourself, and I think you kicked 3, or you're setting up teammates, and that's where he was just going nuts, especially in that first half.
The effective kicks inside forward 50 as well were huge, very effective around the ground, covering a lot of ground, a lot of metres gained. So, they had a really good look at him on first crack on Sunday night, which was very interesting.
It's remarkable. Like, he had 3 goals, 1 behind, had 29 touches, 17 kicks, 12 handballs, 7 marks, 13 tackles. That is just absolute chaos.
Well, also he won 4 free kicks and didn't give any away. So all these little things add to the score.
Can Brody Grundy give him a call?
Yeah.
Love it. Speaking of which, that's the second question, quickfire round. Should we have traded Brody Grundy in round 5?
No.
Okay.
No, probably not. But geez, he's got 1 score over 100 in his last 8.
That is tough.
I mean, I think there is an argument that at the buys maybe he should have gone, and that was when I was really digging my heels in and saying do not trade him. There's a chance, little chance, might have been wrong, just maybe. Citation needed, but he's looked tired on the run home, and the Swans have been bad. So
I think he had very sort of managed minutes on the weekend. I think it's been a long season.
Very worried that he gets rested this weekend. But anyway, I'm in no finals anymore, so it doesn't matter. It's fine. This is fine.
All right. Captain's call for this week ahead for round 24. I think we sort of hit on this a little bit with our man Nathan, coach of Cadiz crew. So the obvious one for me, Al, is a team that has been bleeding SuperCoach points to the opposition at a rate of knots, the Melbourne Demons. There is one fella, Nick Dacos. He plays for this team. You might have heard of him. Collingwood Magpies, pretty good. Had a pretty big win on the weekend. He was pretty good as well, What was that, second quarter? A couple of goals, 14 disposals. Like, that's a pretty good game. That was his second quarter. Not bad. At the G, against the Demons, that's an obvious VC, isn't it?
Well, the only thing is, on King's birthday, Alex Neil-Bullen actually tagged Dacos and kept him to 60-something points.
That was while the Demons had a midfield, and Alex Neil-Bullen now has to play
still
as
had a pulse as well in the season. Yes. I mean, this is Alex Neil-Bullen. It's probably his last game for Melbourne.
It will be his last game for Melbourne.
Give him a tagging job?
Well, I think he's been playing as a midfielder because they don't have anyone else. It's been Jack Viney or bust, so I don't think they can play him as a defensive player. They have to play him as a offensive midfielder, a regular midfielder. So
Dacos at the G, 135, 133, 128, 150, 105, 106, 147, 101, 116. Not bad. The lowest, I think, was that Melbourne game. Oh, no, there was a St Kilda game as well earlier in the season where it's like, oh my God, should we be worried about Nick Dacos? We shouldn't have been. It's fine. He had 54 in that one. But I feel like that's my easy go-to. I'll just roll the dice with Nick Dacos. And
Sexy Flanders, as you mentioned, against the Tigers, I think.
That's probably where my my captain is going to land on the Saturday. And because I want no bar of the Sunday, basically.
Yeah, I kind of want a bar of the Sunday just because that Ballarat game, that GWS Bulldogs game, so huge for both clubs. They hate each other so much.
And even like Bond has a pretty good history there.
Bond has a great history there and against them, and I think I might just throw the dice at that one. Possibly even Tom Green as well is a decent shout in that
averaging
game.
over 120 in his last 5 or something. He's really
Mars
finishing
is
strong.
a smaller ground. If there's any hint of it being wet or raining, then I'll have a really hard look at him.
It's a good shout. He's projected at 122. Butters is at 126. There's a couple of big ones. The weird thing for me is like looking at, they talk about weird matchups down in Tassie, Hawthorn North. Like that's a weird one. Like we're like, well, you'd sort of want to usually back the Hawks, but at the same time they might.
What about a Dylan Moore?
Just weird stuff.
Dylan Moore
happens
VC. Yeah. Stranger things have happened. My big problem with Dylan Moore is that he's a very unselfish player. Stop passing it off to Jack Gunston in the square. Kick it yourself. Nice. I want you to have 5, not Jack. But yeah, I mean that's an interesting shout if you really need a pod or someone a bit different.
I mean, Cherry's just putting up 140s every week. So Lloyd Meek this week he should go okay again. And then Butters is the one you mentioned in the last. If you want to hang on all the way to the last game of the season, which starts at 6 o'clock or something, so we won't know the result till nearly midnight or whatever. But Butters obviously on an absolute tear at the moment. 42 disposals in the showdown, and he scored 136 against Freo in round 5. So
not bad.
Good chance to go well again. So, I mean, it's sort of one where, if you're in a grand final and you're watching the scores, if you wanted to just hold off to see how things are playing out. And,
If you hate yourself or you don't have the capacity to feel emotion and want to ruin your weekend, then great idea. Big fan.
So last call, do you think? Well, I mean, it's Mondays. It's Monday captains. I'll go Dacos into Flanders probably for the moment. Al?
Flanders into Cherry.
Nice. Patch?
More into Bond.
Awesome.
Sure. Let's YOLO
we're
it up.
running the gamut here. That's pretty good. Name game. It's a game of names. Al got the win last week. Tristan Cherry outscored my beloved Noah Anderson at home. This week, we're not going to go myself versus Al. I've already towed him up this year, 11-6-1 for the record. Not bad. This is quite literally, it's very easy. It's payback. We're talking Phantom versus Al. Who gets the win? Phantom needs to outscore you by 80.
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Roughly.
Who are you backing in, Al?
Well, I've got to
Because we're all Team Phantom over here, clearly. So.
I didn't realise I had a choice. But I suppose I have to back myself in. We just, hopefully I'm not playing with 3 donuts.
I'm taking Phantom, so I might get one more on the board before we finish off this season.
And I am calling it'll be a draw. They'll finish on the exact same number of points.
I like that.
At the end of the year.
All right, before we go, we usually do Monday moves. If you've still got a trade left, more power to you because you're a better man than I, or a better coach than I. It's not very hard. But really, it's more about grand final tactics, Al. The sort of sign off here, your final thoughts, heading into this final matchup. Loops, bench loops, vice captain loops. You got to roll your loops as hard as you can. Outside of this, anything else that you're sort of thinking about?
It's just if you're a sort of person who likes to play some of these mind games. I know there's people out there who do this, who make a trade and then they'll reverse it at the last second or change their captaincy just before lockout just to try and psych their opponent out. As Nathan said, he's probably not going to take the risk with things like that, but maybe if you're in a cash league or something, these are the sort of things you could play with. But otherwise, it's, just watching those live scores across the weekend. If you can spare give it your full attention, and then maybe you can, keep, as you say, put some emergencies on bench players and then track how they're going over the weekend, whether you need to pull something out on a Sunday to get the win. But, just good luck to everybody out there. And if you're in a grand final or trying to push up into the top 1,000 or top 5,000 or top 100 ranks, it's been, as you say, Patch, it has been a long season.
Year.
I mean, round 24, I think we haven't had that before, have we? No, we had round 0.
We had round 0 as well.
That feels like a long time ago. So Richmond hasn't really improved since then from what I've noticed. But, it's been fun. And thanks, everybody, for joining us on the ride.
Patch,
thank
vibes.
you. I mean, look, Al's taken the high road. If you're in an office and somebody leaves their computer and they've got a tab open and you switch some emergencies around and, switch the captaincy up to, someone who's probably not going to do that well this week. So a win's a win. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes you've got to just kick him where it hurts the most.
All's fair in love and SuperCoach. That's how it goes.
Exactly. Thank you, James. So, look, on the flip side, log out. Shut your computer down. Do not take risks where you can avoid them this week. For the love of God. Be careful. Have fun. And, thank you for hanging around all year. You wonderful people. You people watching and listening. Long season. Good God.
And as James said, we'll have probably a little bit of a breather, but we will be back soon we'll try and keep the show going over the off-season, some discussion of looking back at what we did right, maybe what lessons we can take into next year, and then we'll have trades to talk about and rookies coming through in the draft, and then before you know it, the team picker will be open and we'll be going again. And also,
of course, before then,
SuperCoach NBL opens tomorrow.
Let's go.
Tuesday. Get amongst it.
That's going to be awesome. All right, that is it for the round 24 preview. It's been a chaos year, hasn't it? But I can't wait for the one that we have a dig into in the next couple of weeks about the wash, how it's all wrapped up, who are the top 6, top 8, and of course, who wins the 50K. We're all going to find out. It's going to be chaos. So remember, if you unsubscribe to SuperCoach Plus, what are you doing? That's just very silly, as we've seen down the stretch here. And if you haven't already, please leave a rating review on your Apple, Spotify, subscribe to Code Sports on YouTube to see this. And you get notified whenever a new episode drops, which is very cool. And for all the latest news and fun gear, smash the AFL Today show. That just, 3 shows a week? It's absolute chaos. Probably a live stream on the weekend as well as the...
and going through finals.
And going through the finals, of course. So lots of stuff going on there. But of course, thanks to Patch for a great season.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks to Phantom. Thanks to, and good luck to our man Nathan. And thank you to you, Al, the guru himself. He's been fantastic all year.
Thank you, James. It's been a pleasure. The show's been really fun this year, so hopefully we sign off with a good one.
Hells yeah. All right, well, Thanks to all the coaches having a crack this season. I've been James Clements. Happy super coaching.